Virtually everyone in America is curious to find out what lies in the future for Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I say virtually everyone because there's one person who doesn't want us to be focusing on that apparently, and that is Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Despite that, and with full respect for the representative, we are going to talk about it and speculate a bit though, because I'm really curious. So we are very lucky to be joined for the first time on the show by the political correspondent for Insider, Tina Sfondeles. Welcome to the Damage Report.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Very glad to have you here. You recently did a write-up about a conversation with the representative about some of the potential paths that people have speculated about. How did that conversation come to be?
Well, as you said, everyone wants to know what she's going to do in her future. There's always rumblings about whether she will run against Chuck Schumer, whether she'll run for president in 2024. And meanwhile, she's just very busy doing things on a daily basis and is kind of annoyed at the noise. Like, I'm sure she's flattered. But so we wanted to talk to her about this because people are always curious. And so my colleague Warren Rojas actually was at the Capitol, stopped her, had this really wonderful interview with her where she, which we disclose in our story, just about how she doesn't want it to be just about herself, that she believes it's about if you're progressive, you're about a movement, you're not about one person saving the world. And so she kind of favors that dialogue over everyone wanting her to be the savior of the world.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, even if you just wanted her to have more power, having more progressives in the House would certainly help that. Did she mention any particular names that she was focused on that are either currently running or might be running that she would want people to focus on in particular?
She did not. I would say this was a very kind of broad overview of her political future, which my people are interested in, political reporters, our editors, et cetera. So we kind of just wanted to get it out there into the air. I do know that she's focusing on issues that she really cares about. Obviously, she cares about climate change. There's a bill introduced last week, I believe, for infrastructure and creating new clean energy jobs. The minimum wage is hugely important to her right now. So she did not get into the specifics of the actual political races she's looking at, but we see that almost daily with her emails, with her fundraising emails. There's, who she's supporting, what causes she's supporting, what she cares about for the week.
Now, so I'm of course curious, like there's several things that obviously she's gonna be working on. In terms of, did she give you any indication of what she thinks the next big focus of the Biden White House should be?
She did not, but as I said, she's pushing very much so clean energy, jobs, climate. She needs that. She was on there's a unity task force with former Secretary of State John Kerry, and that's great for her because he's our climate person right now in our country, and she has immediate access to him. So I think that is going to be huge. She already has, the influence of being herself, and now she has like a direct line to someone who's supposed to create a lot of change for climate.
Okay. Yeah. Now, in terms of the speculation, you mentioned a few possibilities that she could challenge Chuck Schumer, that she could run for president. In theory, she could go for some sort of leadership position in the House. Obviously, she's not, talking about those possibilities much. Is she ruling out any of them? Is she saying clearly, no, I'm not going to be challenging Chuck Schumer? That's obviously a closer race than some of these others.
Yeah, that's what's interesting. She has not been quoted saying definitely, no, I'm staying where I'm at. That's the best answer for any politician is to not say yes or no. So she's not really saying no. We could see something. I do think a Chuck Schumer race would be difficult. And he's got, he knows how to fundraise just as she does. I think she's got more, I forget at this point, but they're both very good at fundraising. So that would be a really tough race. And as you've seen, I don't know if you've seen on Twitter, anytime you talk about 2024, people are so mad. Like they're so mad that you even bring up 2024. They're like, I have PTSD. I cannot deal with this yet.
Sure.
And that's definitely happening where people are just angry at this point about any speculation. We write a lot of stories about the vice president potentially running. And some people are mad about that. So I feel like, we'll see what happens in a couple of years or months, essentially.
Look, I get it. It was a long election. It felt like a long time, but I also remember the 2016 election. And that doesn't feel like it was that long ago. The 4 years is 4 years, but 4 years does pass. So
yeah, it does.
And in terms of the Chuck Schumer, whether she runs or not, there is some conversation about how the prospect of a potential primary race could be affecting him. And a lot of his recent moves are interpreted through that lens. Like if he's pushing Biden to cancel $50,000. Would he have been doing that if AOC was still a bartender? What are your thoughts about all of that?
We did directly ask people that question, essentially people who worked for Chuck Schumer. Like, we talked to a former legislative director in our story, and he did not believe that. He said that it was more reflective of the caucus, that Democrats are more progressive now in his caucus, and so he has to listen to them, and that it's not just her and her everything. I think that it is, what they say is that it's a collective moving to the left, and that he's trying to listen, and that he's a smart guy. He knows when he needs to go to the left for whatever, for political purposes, for everything else. So he's listening. I don't know if it's necessarily just her.
Okay. Okay, and there's one other topic I wanted to ask you about. So we've talked about several of the possibilities for the representative, that she could go for some higher office or that she could stay in her current office. Of course, the third option would be that she could not even stay in her current office. And she has at least once before hinted that, especially considering, I mean, she must face about as much harassment and death threats as anyone in politics these days. That's a lot. And that in theory, she might not see her future including political office. Did that come up at all in the conversation?
It's a nod, but as you said, I mean, we've heard her talk on Instagram Live about January 6th or even before, that she has had threats before, and it's really scary. She's had to use some money to beef up security at certain town halls. But the thing is that she could still have the power even if she was not in her position. That's another thing that we learned in the story. We know that people wanted to hear her talk. She has Twitter. She has her Instagram Lives where there's 150,000 or more people. She has millions of followers on Twitter. She can send out an email and raise how much for Texas? Millions of dollars for Texas when they needed it. So even if she was not in the House, I still think she can do whatever she wants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to our audience, I don't know anyone watching this which side you lay on, if you're curious about the speculation or if you lean more with the representative that we should be focusing on other races. Here at the Damage Report, we're gonna do both because we actually do a show every day and we have time to fill. But anyway, appreciate you joining us, Tina, to talk about your work and to help speculate. We find it as entertaining as you. And so thank you as always, and we hope that we speak to you again soon.
Sounds good, thank you.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.